First question. We've had him on the podcast before, too. Teddy Reese?
Oh, Teddy Reese. Yeah, he's a member. What's up, Teddy?
Yeah. How would you describe your own personal sound/style?
My own sound and style. Man, that's a tricky question for me, for sure. I would say sound, like audio, that's a little bit easier. For me, like an honest but very dialed in sound. I do like my kit to sound somewhat organic, so I don't want it to sound like overly processed. We've tried doing drum replacements before, like me and Joe Hodgen was on the podcast in just a little bit. We tried doing drum replacements for YouTube lessons like 2011, 12, or 13, like somewhere in there, and I always hated it. I'm like, that's not what my snare sounds like, so I never really did that. So I always like an organic audio sound. But with that said, I do like it to be dialed in. So I do like really, really, really spending some time EQing and compressing and just getting like again, dialed in is the best picture, is the best word that comes to mind there. So clean but honest would be my audio preference. As far as my playing style, really tough, man, because, I grew up, I'll take you through sort of the history. I grew up playing a lot of punk stuff, which kind of turned into metal by like high school. So, Travis Barker was like the jam when I was like 12, 13, 14. By the time I was 15, 16, 17, it was like Under Oath and Chiodos and a lot of the like much heavier, more like scene, emo, screamo kind of music, Warped Tour stuff. So I did that for a little while. And then at some point it kind of like transitioned into more, I guess, like hip hop, funk, and fusion would be the genres that sort of pulled me away from that. So I definitely have like a rock metal base, and a lot of that, what's put on the top of that is sort of like the choppiness of gospel, and then a little bit of the like syncopated elements of funk and fusion and hip hop that can come on top of that. So it's some weird blend of all of those. But there's also this weird thing that happens with a lot of educators, and that is that as you begin to teach different styles, you become sort of a musical chameleon in that I can, like, for example, I have never really studied jazz. I can teach fundamental jazz, and I definitely can play a lot of the basics of jazz, but I would be totally lying if I said I could just go sit in on like a high-level jazz improv group. Like, I'm not the dude. It's going to get weird, and I'll be very embarrassed here. So like, I wouldn't put myself in that situation. But with that said, I could make you think that I was good at jazz if I gave you like a 1-minute clip, right? Because I know enough to play some certain mannerisms and some certain patterns where I could like almost trick you in a way, so where you think I'm good at this, but then if you ask me to like change a certain pattern or manipulate or do it in this time signature, like, I can't do that, I'm like that with guitar. I can play certain riffs and things that are beyond my actual skill set, but like if you just saw me play that, you would think that I was good, but then you realize that I don't actually know all the stuff behind it. And I think education does this to people sometimes. Like, it just makes you get good at teaching very certain specific things, but you're not actually proficient in the genre. And I have a good amount of genres that are like that, where I'm just good at a little chunk of it, but not necessarily the entire thing. My own personal style, though, really, it's some blend of rock, pop, funk, fusion, hip hop, all sort of mixed together, and then throw like a 2 to 3 year chops phase on top of that, right? But I've also learned that it is really limiting to put yourself in a style box. There's some advantages to saying I'm a hip hop drummer, and this is the only thing that I study, and it's the only thing that I play. You're probably a top contender for like a hip hop gig, but you know who's never going to call you? Somebody from any other genre in the world. So if there's a funk gig, you're not getting the call. If there's a pop gig, probably not getting the call. Country gig, definitely not, right? So as you put yourself and your own style in a box, you limit yourself, and your opportunities get a little bit more narrow. That might be exactly what you want if you only like one style of music. But for me, I never really felt that way. I always felt like I would be just as happy taking the rock gig as the pop gig, as the country gig. It never really bothered me. So hard for me to pin down my own style, but it's some blend of all of those. And ultimately, that's what all of us are, right? You're a blend of all of your experiences and everything that you took the time to learn or study or listen to over the years. So good question, man. Hard one for me to answer, but it's a really good question, Teddy.
So clean but honest. And I wrote down chops meets punk.
Chops meets punk, sure. I'll take that. I can still do some punk stuff. It's just like leftover chunks. is what I have in my playing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I still have let live mannerisms that I can't get out of my playing because I like buried them too deep in my brain, and they're just stuck there somehow, man. Certain things, it just works that way, you know? Thank you for watching this clip from the Orlando Drummer Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're looking for more content like this, ranging from masterclasses to in-depth courses to rudiments, grooves, fills, interviews with pro drummers, everything you can imagine, I've got all of that waiting for you at the link in the description. Click on orlandodrummer.com and start your free 7-day trial to see what's inside. I promise you will find something you like, and I will see you guys there.